Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a very special video because it's a triple header. It's going to be a early impression on a indie house from England who is run by the owner and perfumer, and his name is Peter Carter, and his brand is Centauri. So I did an unboxing of this. And Centauri Perfumes is the brand. I love the little pouch. I love the little cards that come with it. So today we're going to talk about Mirabai, which is his newest fragrance. It's still even available for purchase on his website. So you can go on there, and if it's something that piques your interest, you're interested in, you can still find bottles. Again, he runs his brand very similar to how Aries Ladore runs, or Russian Adam runs Aries Ladore, because basically what he does is he issues limited amounts. So let's say he buys a very rare sandalwood like he did with Mirabai. You know, he's going to create what the ingredient can create, and then once it's gone, that's it. It's never to be recreated again. That's the idea. And so before we get into Mirabai, though, I have a double unboxing. That's why I said today is a triple header. So we're going to do an early impression on Mirabai. I picked this fragrance because you can still buy it, like I said. But we're also going to talk about a couple gifts. The first is from my good friend Eugene from Canada. He sent me this, and he sent me this. He sent me a beautiful t-shirt with his brand's logo. The quatrefoil on it right here. Can't see if you guys can see it. There you go. Very cool. Cannot wait to wear this. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to wear it tomorrow when I wear your fragrance and talk about it on the channel. So I'll give an early impression of Eugene's new fragrance, which is, his brand is called Les Abstraits, if you are not familiar for whatever reason yet. If you follow us, you probably are. And the fragrance is called Le Douleur Exquise. I think it translates to the exquisite pain, or... Oh, I wish I looked this up before. But Antoine Lee is the creator, and I think he's a genius nose. It's supposed to be like a smoky, animalic, resinous rose fragrance. I mean, what better ingredient than rose to, you know, to... highlight the note of, you know, suffering, if you will. And so I'm going to do an early impression of that. The exquisite pain is basically what it translates to. The expression, feeling of, you know, wanting someone you know you can never have, that kind of thing. That's the idea of the fragrance, or the pain that they've been through. So that's number one. I'm very happy for that. Thank you, Eugene. I've been wanting this for a long time now. I can't wait to smell your fragrance. You know, I'm a huge fan of you and your channel and your work. But as you guys know, you know, obviously a sample isn't going to influence somebody. But even if he had said, here you go, here's a full bottle, it's not going to change the way that what I say about it. I'm going to give my honest opinions on it tomorrow. However, some people have said that it's in the realm of Portrait of a Lady, which if it is, that's great, because I love Portrait of a Lady, but I don't own a bottle. I've been thinking about getting a bottle. So I would probably buy this instead, because this is supposed to be more smoky, more animalic. There's this castoreum note in there. So for me, I'll probably buy this to support a friend anyways, but... yes, the fact that I love castoreum is even better. So the t-shirt, the fragrance, can't wait to chat about that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I got a package. And you can see, do not fly. I love these. Okay, so we're going to open this bad boy. And I know who this is from. Even though it says it's from Florida, it's actually from a friend of the channel. You probably know him in the comments. His name is Dušan. And so Dušan is a friend of a channel. He has some stuff he wanted to send me. He had a friend come to Serbia. He lives in Serbia, and retrieved this stuff, and was kind enough, once he got back to the United States, to ship it to me. So thank you, Dušan. I really appreciate that. Let's see what he sent me. So the first thing is Exit the King by Eldo. Never smelled this before. Again, my sample, I have ample samples. I have so many samples to talk about, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy kind of giving my impression and talking about it. I'm familiar with Exit the King, but I've never smelled it before. So what Dušan did is he basically rounded up some samples that he never heard me talk about before. Rhianne Intense Incense. So I have Rhianne, but I haven't talked about the Intense Incense on my channel because to me, Rhianne is intense enough. But yeah, I mean, you can tell it's Rhianne on absolute beast mode steroids. So that'll go on the to talk about and sniff list. Okay, Molecule 4, Escentric Molecules 04. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this house, although I like some of Giza Schoen's work. I own some of his work in my collection. I recently showed off Ormond Jane Man. And so Escentric Molecules 04 is, what is this one supposed to be? I can't remember. Does it say? Let me see if I can find it real quick. Escentric Molecules 04, 2017. Citrus, woody, grapefruit, javanol. Javanol is a sandalwood, synthetic sandalwood. Juniper, osmanthus, rose, mastic, and labdanum. So this brand kind of got popular because he released one that's basically just like ambroxan. You can spray it and then spray your perfume on top of it. I never got into that stuff, but this does seem like it's an actual composition, not just one molecule. So I'm sure he has made a ton of money off of this idea, but I'm not the biggest fan, but I will talk about it. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We've got, Hatakora Wood. Ajmal Hatakora Wood. Oh, it fell out. It's not in there. It's in the box somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, we've got, Hatakora Wood. Here we go. Where did it go? Aha, get back in your home. Whoops, that's not it. Too many samples. Too many samples. What did I do with it? Hatakora Wood. Here we go. Get back in your home. Okay, so this is the Ajmal Hatakora Wood. This is a brand I've been wanting to get to know because this is a brand that Russian Adam talks very heavily about. And Eddie, who has sent me multiple little sample hauls, he is way too kind. Oh, it's not going to stay. It doesn't want to stay in its sample. It wants to be free. It wants to be free. Okay, now you're going to stay in there, buddy. So there's the bottle, apparently, of Hatakora Wood. So never smelled, never had a chance to actually spray and wear anything from the Ajmal range before. This one is called Amber Santol. So this is the A series from Ajmal. Amber Santol. There's the bottle. And let me put you back in your home. Okay, you stay in your home now. And then there's another Escentric Molecules, which is 03. Escentric Molecules 03. They should do a better job describing what these Escentric Molecule fragrances are supposed to be. So 03, spicy fresh green pepper, ginger, lime, Irish jasmine, tea, musk, sandalwood, vetiver acetate, balsamic notes, and cedar. And then we've got a brand that I have never smelled before. This is Laboratorio Olfactivo Neurotic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these, or if, like me, you're like, wow, I've never seen that before. I've never seen this one before. Never even heard anyone talk about it, I don't think. Let me see if I can look it up. Let's see what it says. I'm interested. Laboratorio. Whoops, I guess I should spell right. Laboratorio. Neurotic, 2016. Cecile Zarokian's the nose. Interesting. Bergamot, grapefruit, red fruits, geranium, coriander, saffron, amber, sandalwood, leather, and smoky notes. I do love smoke. I absolutely do love smoke. And then, in our little mini sample haul here, we've got Costume National Scent Intense, which is, I think, a newer release, but I don't hear very many people talking about this. Costume National Scent Intense Eau de Parfum. So let's see. Costume Scent Intense. No, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. This is not a new scent. This came out in 2002. So this is a 20-year-old fragrance. Very interesting. And then we've got Mr. Burberry Element. Very funny. Very, very funny, Dušan. Unless you're serious about that one. I'm not a fan of the Mr. Burberry line, but I will check it out. Okay, now this is very kind of him because we have 3 2 ml Amouage Jubilation for Women official samples. This is the one he's really pushing for me to smell. And actually, I secured a bottle from Moudasir. I told him, set it aside. Set aside the Jubilation for Women. It is, you know, it's one that I'm thinking I am going to snag at his request, but I'm going to test it. I'm going to be able to test it first. Maybe I'll snag a 100 ml bottle. Who knows? But Jubilation for Women is a Chypre fragrance that is compared to Diaghilev very commonly, and you know my love for Diaghilev. It's one of my, it made my top 10 and my top 100 fragrances. And then finally, in the little scent haul, we have Ajmal Kaifia. Again, I'm not familiar with this brand, so I don't know if these are popular or not popular, but I'm excited to get to know them, especially since Russian Adam speaks so highly of them. So thank you very much, Dušan. Seriously, that's very kind of you. I'm glad you had a friend in the States who could send these to me. So I very much do appreciate it. So you will be hearing me talk about these at some point on my channel. Again, it could be tomorrow, it could be a year from tomorrow because I have so many samples, but I will get to them, I promise. Okay, so let's talk about the whole reason for the video. And that is an indie brand, again, Centauri Perfumes. Excuse me. And the name of the fragrance is Mirabai. And if you know the story of Mirabai, so apparently she lived in the... she was born in 1498, so she lived until 1547. I think they assume she was aged 48 or 49 when she died. And she's this Hindu mystic poet, religious scholar. You know, she's celebrated as a saint, basically. And the quote that Peter gives, because this is a really cool little card that he includes with it. There's a quote, and the quote says, "Don't forget love. It will bring you all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe." And there's a picture of what they assumed Mirabai looked like. And she's also on the front of the card. I really like this color. The other ones for the other perfumes that he has, because this is his newest, is not in color. The color adds an amazing touch to this. Great job with that, Peter. Okay, so here's the deal. I have it's 5:30. This has been on my arm for 9.5 hours. 9 hours on my left hand. So I've got a hell of a dry down. And then I just applied a spray about an hour and 15 minutes ago on this hand, okay? So I've got some of the opening again. So let's talk about the fragrance. And again, all opinions are my own, whether they're sent to me for review or not. These are just my thoughts, okay? So take it with a grain of salt. So here's the thing about Mirabai. Let's go through the notes. So first of all, we've got 1960s Indian sandalwood. We'll talk about that further, of course. Neroli, Bulgarian rose, white lotus, orris butter, cinnamon, nutmeg, black pepper, honey, dried fruit, spikenard, frankincense, patchouli, tonka bean, vanilla absolute, muscaccord, and real white ambergris. Again, all of his ambergris is washed up on the shore naturally. They're not out there, you know, chopping up whales to take the ambergris. That's not how it works. Even if they did that, they wouldn't get ambergris that could be used in perfume, because most ambergris used in perfume needs to float on the oceans and get the sun and the salt from the sea and sit on the beach and all that stuff. And so all of the ambergris he uses is naturally found on beaches. And so here's my first thought. So when I first sprayed this morning, it was very challenging to me. In fact, so it has this, I mentioned fruits, right? Dried fruits. It has this very distinct rotting nectarine vibe in the first 5 or 10 minutes to my nose. And in fact, the first time I sprayed it, I disliked it intensely more than the second time I've sprayed it. So now that my nose has become accustomed to it, I really, that initial off-putting dislike for me started to wane once I put it on again, okay? And I've told you this before, and I'll say it again. Some of the most famous and lauded, heralded, celebrated noses of all time say that all great perfume should shock you. So the fact that this kind of shocked me and took me back at first doesn't stop me, okay? It's not something like I'm just going to quit on it. I never quit on a fragrance. I never wash a fragrance off, okay? So even though I didn't like that rotting fruit accord, it does a course correct. The fragrance course corrects itself as the time goes on, and we'll talk about that. So you have to kind of wait 5 to 10 minutes for this to settle. If your nose is like mine, you might be a little bit challenged by the first 5 or 10 minutes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is 5, 10, 15 minutes in, the florals start to join the party, okay? So you start to get some of that Bulgarian rose absolute that starts to come in. You also start to get this neroli. So there's that neroli flower, Bulgarian rose, and there's also this white lotus absolute, which makes the floral bouquet seem very unique compared to just the normal florals you're used to seeing. If you pull up just a generic French bouquet of jasmine, rose, geranium, maybe some ylang-ylang, maybe not, this is going to smell very, sorry, I dropped the card. It's going to smell very unique because of that white lotus accord. That's the first thing, okay? And once the florals start to join the party, it slowly starts to become more and more and more likable, okay? At least to my initial wearing. Now, the second time, I like it more and more and more. Again, I didn't have that off-putting feel as much as I did, but I really picked out the nectarine, this peach nectarine vibe in the fruit bouquet, if you will. But it is a rotting fruit accord is what it smells like to me initially. This rotting, degrading fruit accord, which has been used many a times before. So something like that does not put me off, but it may put off somebody who is, it may put off someone that doesn't have much experience with fragrance. If you're the kind of person that sprays and smells, you might not like this right away. But you would do yourself a big disservice if you just said, nope, not for me, and didn't let it evolve, because this is a very long fragrance. And the fact that there's Indian sandalwood, quite likely Mysore sandalwood, really means that some of the beauty in the fragrance really starts to come as the hours tick by. But we'll talk about some of that. And then imagine 15, 20 minutes in, or not even 15, 20 minutes in. I mean, a couple minutes in, instantly you start to get this honey. But it really starts to feel like the honey comes into its own 15, 20 to 30 minutes in. And the honey adds this decay. Imagine you're smelling like a decaying honey. Okay, so I mentioned you're smelling a rotting fruit, and you're smelling like a decaying honey. And the vibe, the image that I got in my mind is, imagine you go to like a beehive, but maybe there was like an infection or something with the hive, and the bees abandon the hive, which they will do sometimes. If it's been filled with honey, beehives the honey doesn't just sit there and macerate on its own. Bees have to they have to take care of it. And then if you've ever listened to Rich Mitch mention that bees naturally stink, most people don't know that, but bees have this natural stink to them. So imagine a hive that had a bunch of stinky bees in there that was abandoned, and you get this like decaying honey vibe. That's what I get in the first 20 to 30 minutes, but the honey is ever present, okay? Honey is one of probably the main notes for the first hour. It's very strong. The honey in this is extremely powerful, and I don't think he's used any kind of real honey accord. I think it's a synthetic, if I read that on his website properly. I guess I should have had his website up, actually. Actually, here we go. I'll read it to you just real quick. Mirabai, also known as Mira, 16th century mystic and poet of India, embodied the practice of love devotion, traditionally known as bhakti. The perfume is inspired by her words and the courage it takes to open up the heart fully, to never lose that inner quality and beauty of real love, despite all obstacles of life which try to close our hearts. I love Peter's briefs and his imaginations of stuff like this. And then I already read you the quote about don't forget love. And it says, not suitable for vegans. Natural ambergris is a product of the sperm whale. The ambergris used in all our perfumes is naturally beach found, washed up by the sea without harm to the whale. The honey used is synthetic accord. Okay. Not natural honey. The musk accord is also synthetic and non-animal. Okay. So back to the breakdown and how I feel. So once you hit that half-hour mark, you really start to notice the emergence of a beautiful ambergris note, and it's listed as white ambergris, and I know it's real. It's a very realistic ambergris note, and it smells very real, and it smells very natural. And if you know anything about natural ambergris, it also has this natural animalic component to it as well, because it was in, a species. It was in a sperm whale. When a sperm whale eats a cephalopod or something with a beak that bothers the whale naturally creates this defense where it wraps up the beak in this material, and then it excretes it, and then that's what the ambergris comes from. And ambergris has this property about it called ambrine, and the reason that it was originally used in perfume is they found that it has this ability to hold smell in almost forever. I mean, is what they think. They don't think it ever wears away. I mean, maybe over very long time periods, but in the course of a human life, you could have a chunk of ambergris sitting on a table, and you could 10 years later have the same chunk of ambergris sitting on a table, and you can come back to it and it smells exactly the same. Like, it captures the molecules in there and it does not let it go. And that's the process, that's the ambergris property that perfumers love, because when they mix a fragrance like this with ambergris, that ambrine fixes it to the skin, and it has a long life. That's why dry downs used to be so important back in the day. It used to all be about the dry down. Now it's all about the opening, because they don't have that natural ambergris to help facilitate that. This is a very long fragrance, this fragrance. Extremely long. I can smell it 9 hours later, almost 9.5 hours later, like I just sprayed. Yeah, it's a very strong and powerful fragrance, and that also might put you off. For the first 30 minutes, when I first sprayed this, I was like, wow, this is, a lot. A lot is coming at you. And you notice there's almost no note tree listed. It's just a bunch of notes, and that's almost the way the fragrance comes at you, but the Mysore sandalwood and the real beautiful parts of the fragrance start at about hour 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 to my nose, but we'll talk about some of that. So you get that natural ambergris animalic component, and the florals start to come in, and other facets of the fragrance start to almost pull your attention away from that rotting fruit, decaying honey accord, okay? And then there's a note on top of it all called spikenard. And I mentioned spikenard. Most people don't really know what spikenard is. I am not the biggest fan of that note. I've noticed there's a lot of fragrances that have that note in it that almost give me a little bit of a stomach churning vibe, if you will. And spikenard almost makes the fragrance feel like you're smelling something that is 1,000 feet underground, okay? It gives it this rooty, underground-like vibe, but different from vetiver, okay? So if you're thinking rooty, dark vetiver, spikenard does it differently. It's a note that sometimes I kind of watch out for, but here, when you mix that underground feeling, and there must only be a little tiny bit, is my guess. I guess Peter really dosed this fragrance very intelligently. So the wonderful part about this fragrance is, to my nose, the transitions, okay? So what I smell in the first couple minutes to the first 15 minutes to the first 20, 30 minutes, completely different from what the fragrance begins to smell like at hour 1, at hour 2, at hour 3. The transitions in this fragrance are beautifully done, to be honest with you. And even though I said all the things I said about the rotting fruit, the decaying honey, the off-putting spikenard that makes you feel like you're almost smelling this underground in a hovel, you know, there's a lot of strange little pieces to this fragrance that for the first 30 minutes, I was like, man, this is not for me. But I knew I could almost feel something beautiful in the background, okay? Something trying to come through, if you will. And even though I said all the things I strongly dislike about the opening and all that, as much as I hate the opening, I love the dry down. Okay, so that's the thing. This fragrance is almost like a tale of multiple fragrances because the transitions are so smooth. It's like trying to watch a clock move. Like if you ever try to watch a clock actually move, you can't see it, right? Because the clock is moving, but it's moving very slow, right? No matter how much you stare at it, you're not going to really be able to watch the clock move or watch a human being grow or something like that. It happens over time, but if you see a picture of someone, if you take a picture of someone every year and look at that flip book, you'll be able to see the person aging, right? This fragrance moves like that. I mean, it's almost near perfection. It's like a 11-speed, you know, luxury automobile. You know, you just don't feel it. It's happening, and it's almost like it's happening right underneath your nose. Like you're sitting there paying attention to it, and it's changing, and it's evolving, and it's moving, and all that kind of stuff. So at about the 1 hour mark is where you're going to notice more of the cinnamon and more of the vanilla, okay? And the honey is ever present. Like I said, the honey never leaves almost. It is strong and it's there. And usually, you know, like I said, I love honey. Honey is one of my favorite notes. I mentioned it before. This honey can almost be a little bit too much. Like if you said, hey, Ramsey, can you change anything about the fragrance? I might dose the honey note back just a little bit. But that being said, slowly the honey does start to take a back seat. It doesn't always lead the way, if that makes sense, okay? The cinnamon, the vanilla start to come up. It starts to become more and more mass appealing at the 1 hour mark, 1.5 hour mark, so forth and so on. The fragrance is very strong, okay? Like I said, it's a beast mode fragrance. And honestly, if you don't like honey, I would almost say maybe stay away from this one. So a couple hours tick by, the star of the show begins to emerge. The star of the show, if you will. Terrible pun. The star, it's based on Centauri, the star. Yes, the star of the show begins to make an appearance, and it's that beautiful, natural Indian sandalwood. And the way that it appears is also very interesting because it appears almost like it's wrapped in orris, okay? So you get this Indian sandalwood, but it doesn't appear alone. It appears in conjunction with this beautiful orris butter that he uses. And again, this is the very first fragrance I've smelled from this line, or from his brand, period. So this is like an introduction fragrance for me to the brand. And it really is remarkable. I mean, if you look up pictures of this Mirabai, if you look her up online or stuff like that, the sandalwood will remind you a bit of the woman itself. And then the orris you can think of as almost like her colored traditional Indian outfit that she's always portrayed in. You know, the beautiful, amazing outfits with the colors that she's shown in, portrayed in plays and books and stuff like that. They're always in seeming like it's the finest silks and stuff like that, greens and very vibrant blues and pinks and stuff like that. And that's what the orris reminds me of. It reminds me of like wrapping the sandalwood, if you will. And so let's talk about real quick before we go any further why Peter chose the term Indian sandalwood, because this is a 1960s sandalwood. And so the number one reason is that Peter doesn't know for sure if it is Mysore sandalwood. So he didn't want to claim it was Mysore when it isn't. But here's the thing. There is a reason that Mysore sandalwood was used very heavily in the past from the big brands, okay? So you know, it's the big brands used Mysore because that's what was basically available. you know, it was plentiful. It's like, why did the Native Americans in America hunt buffalo? That's what was there. You know what I mean? Mysore was there in India for the Diors, the YSLs, the Chanels, you know, the big French houses, the Guerlains. They used Mysore because that's what was available, basically, and plentiful to them. Now, what ended up happening is, as the decades went on, the Indian government had no checks and balances on the harvesting of Mysore sandalwood. None, zero. So they could go in and cut down as many trees they want, use it, and they just use the forest up so at such a rate and so fast that they almost harvested the Mysore sandalwood trees to the point of extinction. Okay, like zero. The Indian government had to come in and stop it, or there wouldn't have been any more Indian Mysore sandalwood left. And Mysore is just one type of sandalwood. There's all other kinds of sandalwoods. There's red sandalwood, there's Australian sandalwood, there's New Caledonian sandalwood. That's the one that smells kind of like pickles that I don't really care for. And that kind of stuff. Mysore has a very specific scent profile that from previous generations, you know, the stuff your mother and grandmother wore, they will know that Mysore smell because it's what, again, it's what Jean Patou used, that kind of stuff. Those kind of houses used Mysore. And it gives a very specific feeling, if you will. The scent profile is very buttery. It's spongy almost, lemony, spongy. Smooth, buttery smooth, okay? So imagine buttery, like melted butter smooth. But then on top of it, Mysore adds a completely different aspect to a fragrance than like that punchy. Like I could tell there was Javanol in this molecule 04 just from smelling the atomizer. It is so punchy and strong, that synthetic sandalwood. This is completely different. And Mysore has one other quality to it that most sandalwoods don't have, and that's that it's very musky. In essence, it smells very musky along with all the other traits that I mentioned. And so even though there's no musk listed in this fragrance, because I think this is probably Mysore sandalwood, but again, we don't know, we're speculating. Because there's Mysore sandalwood here, it smells like there's some musk. Although there isn't any, I think it's coming from the Mysore sandalwood. That's my guess. And so there's no musk listed. Probably Mysore. And again, the reason Mysore stopped being used is because they farmed it to extinction, basically. There are videos you can go online of, you know, Mysore poachers, if you want to call it that, going to these fields at night with AK-47s and shooting it out with the actual Indian government just to get some of these trees. That's how valuable this ingredient is. And most people think that Mysore sandalwood is it's Mysore. It's almost built up like this mythical figure in their head, like, oh my God, it's Mysore sandalwood. This is gonna be the most huge beast mode, you know, everyone's gonna smell me. It's gonna be like people are gonna smell you if you walk in from the other side of the building. No, Mysore sandalwood is not that. It's actually the exact opposite of that. It's very calming, very relaxing, and it's not something that's going to reach out. It's not going to have like an ambroxan throw like Sauvage Eau de Toilette. Everyone's not going to be able to smell you. It's more reserved. It's classier. That's why the French houses, that's why especially some of the big French perfumers like Jean-Paul Guerlain with Samsara, like Jean Carlio from the House of Patou, that's why they used Mysore. It was it was made for fine French perfumery, right? And once you get to an hour 2 or 3 of this fragrance, you're going to smell this amazing Mysore. Excuse me, which actually, if you go back a couple videos, I did a early impression on probably one of the best Mysore scents I've ever smelled, which is Santol Galore. Now, I think Santol Galore is the best Mysore scent ever, in my opinion. And this is very close to that, but the difference is Santol Galore doesn't put me off for the first half an hour to 45 minutes. I don't have to struggle through it. And Mirabai is a tale of two halves for me. Like I said, I don't like the opening as much, but I absolutely adore the dry down. I've been in heaven you know, these, now that it's dried, especially this late dry down, it just goes on and on and on. And I'll tell you what, Arij Ladori actually sent me, Russian Adam actually sent me real Mysore sandalwood. And I've put some on my skin and I've worn it, and I can tell you how it smells, and you can definitely smell it in the dry down. Definitely smells like natural, real Mysore sandalwood. So smooth, so flexible. It's just, it's a beautiful composition, but you have to get there. So the pros and the cons of this fragrance to me is, the biggest pro is if you are a lover of sandalwood, okay? And sandalwood is a very religious scent to me. That's the other thing about this fragrance, is it's, you know, coined after a saint. Sandalwood to me is a very religious smell. It's a very calming, it almost puts me in like a meditative state, you know what I mean? But it's not meant to go party. It's not meant to go to the club. If you go to the club and wear this, I promise you, you're not going to get, you know, some college girl to come compliment you. That's not what this is for. This is for the real connoisseurs, the ones that want to experience real Mysore sandalwood in a composition. Now, Peter, even though he isn't a self-taught perfumer, the blend smells very good here. It smells well blended. The opening is a bit of a risk, I think. I think he took a bit of a risk with the opening. It's challenging. But I like it. I mean, I like the fragrance. I just had to get there. And it does smell very unique. The ingredients are high quality. You'll smell the real ambergris. You'll smell the real, you know, the real sandalwood, which is probably Mysore, but we don't know. Rare 1960s sandalwood, let's say. And, you know, it's a limited time fragrance. So he thought he was only going to be able to make 49 bottles, one for each year of her life. He ended up making, I think, something like 149 bottles or 150 bottles or something. So it is still on the website. The reason I started with this one is it's one you can just go to his website, CentauriPerfumes.com, and click buy now. 30 mils is 177 pounds, I believe. I think, which is close to like $200, which is not bad for what you're getting. You know, the pricing is not outrageous. The bottle is absolutely stunning. I mean, I don't care about the bottle, but his bottle, the fact he took the time and money and effort and energy to create the mold and the beautiful cap, and, you know, it's his design and all that stuff. It's just he has an amazing brand. I mean, it's an amazing story. So Mirabai, I would say, if it's something that sounds interesting, you can go to his website and buy it. This is the one I wanted to start with. It's a great intro to the brand. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. I hope, Peter, I hope I wasn't too hard on it, but honestly, I mean, that's how I felt. And so those are my honest thoughts and opinions. If you guys have experience with the House of Centauri, again, this is my first experience, so I still have all these other ones to now try. You know, I still have the Anthea, Dendra, Gaia, and Proxima, which I will do early impressions of on my channel very soon. So I have all that stuff coming. So if you have experience with the brand, I would love to know your thoughts. Which ones are your favorites? You know, which ones you really like or don't like, or all that stuff. And if you've had a chance to try Gaia by any chance, I know he has a lot of fans out there. I have no clue how many bottles he sold or how many are left, because it doesn't say on the website. So I don't know whether there's 1 left or 100 left. But, you know, if you guys have tried it, I would love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if you agree or disagree with me on kind of my breakdown. So again, to Dušan, for these beautiful samples, I can't wait to wear this, mate. Seriously, I can't wait to kind of test it and try it and all that stuff. That'll probably happen soon. Tomorrow, I want to review Eugene's fragrance, so I'll probably wear this as my scent of the day tomorrow. By the way, to the guy who in my video yesterday basically called me a fake and a fraud and all that stuff, again, you're going to get to hear my thoughts on his fragrance tomorrow, so stay tuned. You know, I pinned his message to the top of the video yesterday because he pissed me off so bad. But so Eugene's fragrance is coming up. Peter Carter's fragrance, Mirabai, is in the books. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on Mirabai. And if you love sandalwood, if you love Mysore sandalwood anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it below. Again, very meditative. Once it gets to that dry down, it's absolutely stunning. it's just a matter of getting there for me. And again, everyone's nose is different. This is like picking a favorite color. My opinion doesn't carry any more weight to it than yours. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the likes, comments, subscriptions, all that fun stuff down below. The support you guys have given me, again, just stuff like this from the community is absolutely amazing. That's the one part about starting this channel for me that really shocked me, is the kindness and generosity of the subscribers that I've been able to, you know, attract to the channel. Its first 1,600 subscribers have been, I mean, I couldn't ask for better, other than the 0.1%. 99.9% that I've had are just, I mean, role model subscribers, knowledgeable, kind. They share so much with me. Like, there's so much I would never have been able to smell without them sending me some of these amazing samples. You know, Rachel even sent me full bottles. Hanky sent me a full bottle. Like, I mean, you guys are above and beyond. It's very humbling, actually, and it makes me want to, it really lifts me up, you know what I mean? Like, it lifts me up and it makes me want to continue going forward. So, Peter, I hope you have enjoyed my initial thoughts on Mirabai. Again, if you guys are interested, go to his website. You can still pick up a bottle, and hopefully I will see you guys again tomorrow with another review on Eugene's fragrance. Cannot wait. The very first Les Abstraits review on my channel. So hopefully 2 more to come. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye now.